Hi, my name is Pam Lamp. I write a blog called Who I Met Today, where I interview and profile people who do interesting things that I'd like to learn more about and share with all of you. I send out a newsletter every other Friday, a short newsletter featuring one of the people's stories, some book recommendations, and new things that either readers have brought to my attention or I've learned about. I'd love to have you follow along. I also love to read and talk about books to anyone who will listen. So each month I do a roundup of books for the 60andMe community. And this month I have really enjoyed the ones that I've read. Got a combination of fiction and nonfiction. And if you'd like to read more, the link to the story is below. I'll be brief when I go over all of these. The first one that I absolutely loved and hope you will read is called I Must Betray You by Ruta Sepetys, and I hope I'm not botching her name. Fictionalized, but the author claims that the people she interviewed that used to live in Romania, including Nadia Comaneci, the Romanian gymnast, say it is, although the book is fictionalized, it could all be true. It takes place in 1989 Romania, which really wasn't that long ago, when Nicolae I'm going to botch that name too. I'll say Kosaku. I don't think that's how you pronounce it, but I believe you know who I mean. He was in, he had been in a dictator for about 20 years. And it was just unbelievable what he did to the country of Romania and how he forced the people to live. 1989 was when the revolution took place, and he and his wife were sentenced to death. It's just a remarkable tale of hardship, heartache, and resolve, and just loved the book. And everyone that I've recommended it to that has read it has really enjoyed it too. The next one is called The Maid by Nita Prose. And one of my readers, my blog subscribers, recommended this one to me. And I'm glad I read it. It's a charming, predictable, but heartwarming story, a mystery. Molly is a maid in a high-end hotel. And she has, it's never mentioned in the book that it's a medical issue, but she has a hard time processing thoughts and events. She loves things that are clean. She has great attention to detail, and all that rolled along just fine until she discovered a longtime guest murdered in his bed. It might be, as I mentioned, a little predictable, but it's still a great story, and Universal has picked it up as a film starring Florence Pugh. So I hope you'll read it before the movie comes out. I interviewed a woman a couple of months ago about her trip to Antarctica, because that is one of those places in the world that I don't think I will ever get. I just know myself, and I know that that's not the trip for me. But she insisted I read a book called Endurance, Shackleton's Incredible Voyage by Alfred Lansing. And so I did. Just incredible. It's nonfiction. There are parts that you could skim through if it got a little slow, but overall it's just mesmerizing. In 1915, Ernest Shackleton, and his crew of 27 men set out in a wooden ship for Antarctica. The goal was to walk across the continent. A day before they landed on the continent, pack ice surrounded their ship and eventually sank it. So these men were stranded in this brutal weather under brutal conditions for over 2 years. Everyone survived, and I'm not giving away anything here. It's just a testament to the fortitude of the men, the leadership of Shackleton. Right after I read it, the news came out that the ship had been discovered at the bottom of the Weddell Sea near the Antarctica continent. And the water was so cold that the ship was entirely, well, not entirely, but mostly preserved. And so it was great timing to read that book and then to read about the ship being discovered. It would make a great Father's Day gift if you're interested. Women would like it too, I promise you. But I gave it to my husband after I read it, and he just devoured it. The next book is by Fiona Davis, and those of you who have in the community that have listened to these videos in the past know that I'm a big Fiona Davis fan. The Magnolia Palace is her newest. She writes about New York City iconic landmarks, historical fiction, typically uses dual timelines and weaves the story together. And this one centers around the Frick collection, which is Henry Clay Frick's former mansion and art collection. It's a real place in New York City, and I urge you to go there if your travels take you to New York. The next one, The Younger Wife by Sally Hepworth. I know that a lot of you in the 60andMe community are big fans of this Australian author. She writes a lot of novels about crime, and she's written a lot of novels. This one centers around a family. A heart surgeon divorces his Alzheimer's-stricken wife, as if that isn't bad enough. He then remarries a woman who is younger than his two grown daughters. But it's not the cliched younger other woman story. The two daughters and the woman really do develop a relationship based on respect. Like many other readers and reviews that I've read, I was so perplexed with the ending. It wasn't a bad ending, but it was a type of ending that left me thinking about this book for days and days and days, and very thought-provoking. So I would hope that you would be interested in that one. Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus is brand new. I was lucky enough to get an advanced read copy, and she has all kinds of buzz surrounding this one. She's also got an Apple TV deal, so that's a great thing. And what I really like about, not the book, but the author, is that she's 64 years old, and this is the first book she's ever written. I think that's, she just proves it's never too late, you're never too old. A quirky, in a good way, story set in the 1960s in Southern California. The main character, Elizabeth, is a scientist in a world where men think women can't do that type of work. They know everything, and women don't. Elizabeth is out to prove them wrong. She ends up as the host of a cooking show on TV, unlike any cooking show you or I have ever seen. But it's just a delightful read, and one that I think most of you will enjoy. And then the last one I have for this time is called The Grand Design by Joy Calloway. Years ago, when my boys were in school in Virginia, I stopped at the Greenbrier Hotel, and it was designed with lots of pinks and greens and patterns and flowers, and just not a quiet place for the eye to rest. I loved it. I thought it was great. My husband, not so much. But anyway, that was my first introduction to Dorothy Draper's design style. Loved the Greenbrier. It was a majestic resort. And this book is another historical fiction novel narrated by Dorothy. Tells the story of the Greenbrier over the years. It was a hospital during the war. Weaves her story into it. And she was the first woman ever to have her own professional design company. So I thought it was very interesting, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too. So that's it for this time. I hope you find something that you'd like to read. I also hope you will take a look at my blog. If you think you might be a good candidate for a story, I'd love to hear from you. That's how I've gotten some of my stories. Or if you have a friend or a relative that you can recommend, that would be great too. So until next time, happy reading, and take care.